panels together. And all I did was put a little clip at the bottom so that my work isn't flying around everywhere. And then I'm just going to sandwich them together and take this end right here, kind of make sure they're all together. I'm going to turn my work to make sure this end is on my right side so I can work from the top to the bottom, like that. And then we are going to attach our yarn to the chain, these little chain 3 spaces right here at the corner. Okay, so let's attach our yarn. And then you are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're just going to attach your yarn how you attached your sleeves. So you're going to chain 3, and then you are going to insert your hook into the middle stitch of your cluster, just like how we did it on the sleeve. So insert your hook into the middle stitch of your first panel cluster, and then insert your hook into the middle stitch of your second panel cluster, which is also your treble stitch. So you always know you're going through the treble stitch for your front and back. So then you chain 3, 1, 2, 3, then insert your hook into those middle stitches of your next cluster, and then chain 3, and then insert your hooks into the middle stitch of your next set of clusters for your front and back panels, and then continue doing that all the way down. Okay, and then after I fasten off, I turn my work so that it's laying flat, and then here at the bottom you have these 2 strands of yarn right here, and all I am going to do is tie those 2 together like that, and then it kind of keeps that together. Okay, so now this is what it looks like. So this is what the seam looks like when you're done. Here's the inside, and then here is the back. And this is what it looks like. And this is it together. And then you see how right here you have like your little neck line, and that's because we added those extra rows. Okay, so this is what the cardigan looks like now. Now all we have to do is lengthen it, and if you like this length, then you don't have to do the extra rolls for the length. You can just move right on to doing the border, and then you can be done. I like to give it a little length, so I'm just going to do a couple of rows to make it longer. But right now, if you like this, you can just go straight over to the border. But this is what it looks like after you put it together. Now, let's get started with making it. Okay, so we are going to attach our yarn to this corner space right here on your bottom left corner panel. So your work is facing you with your sleeves closest to you, sleeves closest to me, and then this is my bottom left corner, and then this is where we're going to attach our yarn to with the right side up. And then you're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to place 2 more double crochets inside of that corner. And then you're going to chain 1, and then you are going to, here is a double crochet from the previous rounds when we were doing the front and back paneling, you're going to skip this space and then you're going to place 3 double crochets into this space right here. So skip that first space after your beginning double crochets, chain 1. So then I have 3 double crochets right here into that space, and I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to put 3 more double crochets into this space right here. So I'm skipping over right here, this little space right here, and then I'm going to put 3 double crochets right here into this space, which is right next to, right before these 3 double crochets right here. So place 3 double crochets into that space. And then you're going to chain 1, and then you are going to mosaic granny square all the way until you get to your middle part where you added your length. So it will look just like how the beginning part looked, where it's going straight like this. You are going to do your traditional regular mosaic cluster stitches into your chain 1 spaces until you get to this back part where we added in our rows. Okay, so I'm at the back part now, and you will be able to tell because you have no spaces to do a regular mosaic granny cluster. So here's my last cluster that I did. Now you're going to place 3 double crochets into this space right after these 3 double crochets right here. Place 3 double crochets into there. So we're making just a regular granny cluster. And then chain 1. And then you see this space right here. We're going to skip that space, and then we're going to put 3 double crochets into this space right here. So place 3 double crochets to that space, and then chain 1, and then the space after these 3 clusters that you did right here, we're going to skip that space, and then we're going to put 3 double crochets into this space right here. 1, 2, and 3. Now we are at the middle seam. This is where we seamed our pieces together. So right now we're going to chain 1 after we did the 3 double crochet clusters, and then to kind of bring this together and it won't look so wonky, you are going to place 1 double crochet right here into this space, and then you are going to triple crochet into this space right here around this chain 3 from when you attached your pieces together. So you are going to triple around that chain 3, and then you are going to place a double crochet into this space right here on the other side, and then you are going to chain 1, and then it will look like this. And this just helps kind of bring the piece together, and you're not having these gaping holes, and you're not kind of adding too many clusters to where it's going to start bulging together. So this just keeps it to have an even space of clusters at the bottom. Okay, so now we're going to work on the other side where we did extra rows. So right here, we're going to skip this space right here, right after that double crochet right here that we just made. So we're going to skip this space, and then we are going to place 3 double crochets into this space. 1, 2, and then 3, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we are going to skip this space right here, right next to these 3 double crochets that we just made, and then we are going to put 3 double crochets into this space right here. 1, 2, and 3, and then you're going to chain 1, and then you are going to skip the space right next to the 3 double crochets that you just made, and then you're going to place 3 double crochets right here into this space right next to these 3 double crochets from the previous rounds. So basically what we just did is did the 3 double crochet clusters on this side, the same that we did on this side. So then everything is evenly spaced apart. Now we are going to go and do our traditional mosaic granny square clusters. Here's go around that double crochet in the middle, do a front post treble. Alright, so now you're going to do your traditional mosaic granny clusters all the way until you get to the end, to where you added on your rows in your front panel. And then we are going to add double crochet clusters just like how we did in the beginning. So do your regular traditional mosaic granny clusters all the way until you get to the spot where we added on the front, onto the front panel. Okay, so I am at the end where I added onto my cardigan. So now I am going to place 3 double crochet clusters on this side, just like how I did in the beginning. So my first one is going to be in this space right here, right after these 3 double crochet cluster stitches. 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip this space right here, and I am going to put 3 double crochets into this space right here. 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to skip this space right here, and I'm going to put 3 double crochets into this space right here, which is the corner space. 1, 2, and 3. Now row 1 of the lengthening part is done. Okay, so to start row 2, you are going to turn your work, and you are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you are going to put a granny cluster, which is 3 double crochets, into your next chain 1 space, and then you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to put another granny square cluster, which is 3 double crochets, into your next chain 1 space, and then chain 1, and then you are going to put a reverse mosaic double crochet cluster into your next space, and then you are going to continue to reverse mosaic cluster until you get to your middle stitches where you added your length. So where we put the double crochets, the regular granny clusters from the previous round. So here is a regular mosaic cluster, and then here are 1, 2, 3 granny clusters, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So right when you get up to the point where you started adding in your width to your sweater, I will meet you there, and then I will show you how to do that part. Alright, so I am at my middle clusters, and I know I'm at my middle because I can't do a regular reverse mosaic granny cluster here because it's kind of like sideways. So then you are just going to put 3 double crochets into those spaces that you can't do a reverse mosaic cluster in. So you're just going to make regular traditional granny square clusters into those spaces, and it should be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're going to make 6 traditional granny square clusters, and then you're going to go back to making your reverse mosaic granny square clusters until you get to your end, and then you are going to make 2 traditional granny square clusters, and once you get to that last chain 1 space after you make your 3 double crochets in there, I will meet you there and show you how to end this round for round 2. Okay, so to finish off this round, you are going to make sure you have that chain 1, and you are going to double crochet into that chain 3 at the end. Okay, so place your double crochet into the top of that chain 3, and then if you want to color block like you have seen in the photos, then you are going to fasten off with your solid color right here, and you are going to turn your work, and you are going to attach your multicolored yarn. Okay, so you are going to attach your yarn into that corner space right here, right where you just fastened off at with your colored yarn or multicolored, whatever. And then you are going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you are going to front post treble around that double crochet from the previous round. So you are doing a mosaic granny. Your beginning chain 3 counts as your first double crochet, and then put another double crochet back into that same space, and then chain 1. Now you are going to mosaic cluster. You're going to put a mosaic granny cluster into each chain 1 space all the way until the end, and then I will show you how to end row 3. Okay, so I'm at the end, and at the end in this space right here, you are going to put a regular mosaic granny cluster by going into the middle of those 3 double crochets from the previous row, putting your front post treble around that one, and then finish it off. Now you're going to turn your work in, and for row 4, you are going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3, and then all you're going to do is reverse mosaic granny cluster all the way down until the end, and then I will show you how to finish off row 4, and I will meet you down there. Okay, so I am at the end, and I have one more chain 1 space I have to work into, and I'm going to put my reverse mosaic cluster into there. Let's split my yarn. Okay, and then 1 double crochet, and then I'm going to chain 1, and then to end off this row, To end off this row, you are going to place a double crochet into the top of that chain 3 at the end. And then that is the end of row 4. So now you are going to continue to repeat rows 3 and 4. The only difference between each row is how you start. So for row 3, you are going to start with a chain 3, and then you're going to finish off a mosaic granny cluster into that stitch like this. Turn your work. Now I did my chain 3. Now I am going to finish off the mosaic cluster stitch into that space right after my chain 3, and then I go on and I just do regular mosaic cluster stitches. And then for rounds 4, you do chain 3, and then you do reverse mosaic cluster stitches. And I will make sure to put all of the repeat rounds for each section in the description box, so you won't have to restart the video. You can just look in the description box to remember what the repeats are. So for me, I like to do 8 rows of using my multicolored yarn, and then do 2 rows of my solid color, and then I will start my border. So do as many rows as you like, but if you're going to follow along with the color blocking that I did, you're going to do a total of 8 rows of your multicolored yarn, and then do 2 rows of your solid colored yarn, and then meet me back and we will start with the border. Okay, so I want to show you 2 different ways to do the lengthening. I want to show you a way to where you can understand if you didn't do as many rows for the back and front panel, or as many rows for the back panel. I want to show you how it would look and how to start those rows, just in case if you're not doing an adult size and you're doing a child size. Now with the adult size, I do recommend doing all of the front and back panels, but you can do how many that you like, but I just want to show you how it would look. And then after this, later on in the video, you're going to be able to see how it looks with doing all of the panels that I show you. So, okay, to start, you are going to attach your yarn to your bottom left corner front panel. And I am attaching my yarn because I don't have just a chain 1 space or a space at all, so I have to kind of make my own space. So I'm attaching it to the side of this last double crochet in the top of it, but we're going to be working on the side. And then you're going to want to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to want to place 2 double crochets on the side of this double crochet, and you kind of just have to find a spot to put them. And then you're going to chain 1, and then you're always going to skip a space right now when we're trying to make our granny squares spaces, so that we can start doing the mosaic granny square. So I'm going to skip that space. So you might have 1 or 2 spaces right here. It just depends on how many rows you did for the front and back panel. And so you will start with 3 double crochets in the beginning. That's the same for any panel, but you might have an actual chain space right there, and you might not have a chain space. So this is showing you a way when you don't have a chain space, and then you're going to skip the space next to those 3 double crochet clusters that you just made, so a traditional granny cluster. And then you are going to do your mosaic cluster once you get to a space where it's 3 double crochets under your chain 1, just like how you were doing it for the cardigan before we got to this point. And then you just keep going and doing mosaic granny clusters all the way until you get to your middle part. And once you get to your middle part, I will show you how to place your traditional granny clusters. Okay, so I am at my middle point. So where I added on the extra rows, so all I'm going to do is put granny clusters into these available chain spaces before I get to my middle join point. So right now it doesn't matter how many rows you added or didn't add, so all you're going to do when you can't put a mosaic cluster, granny cluster anywhere, you are going to do a traditional granny cluster into the chain spaces. So I can't put a I can't put a mosaic granny cluster right here, have nothing to put my tribble into, so I'm going to put a traditional granny cluster there. And then chain one, and now I'm at my midpoint where I join the two panels together. So you might have to do more traditional granny clusters, just depends on how many rows you added or didn't add. But the midpoint is always going to be the same for all of the cardigans or whatever size you make. So you have these chain 3 spaces, so you're going to put a double crochet into the first one, and then you're going to put your triple crochet, here's your join, here's your last chain 3 around that chain 3 from your joining of the two panels, and then you're going to put a double crochet into the other chain 3 space, and then chain 1, and then it just kind of like seams it together. And then I have a chain space, but I can't put a mosaic cluster there, so I have to put a traditional granny there. And once again, you might have more than just one you have to put into the chain spaces, just depends on how many rows. And then now my next chain space, I can put a mosaic granny because I have these 3 double crochets underneath my chain 1 are ready to go. And so I just go and I do the mosaic granny clusters all the way until the end, and I will show you how to end it. Okay, so I am at the end and I have 1 chain space left to go. So I can't do a mosaic granny there, so I have to do a traditional granny cluster there, which is 3 double crochets. And then chain 1, and then if you don't have a chain space there and it's kind of like these 3 double crochets on its side, all you're going to do to end the row is put a double crochet into the top of that double crochet from the previous rounds, and then that's how you end it. Okay, so you're going to turn your work, and then you are going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you are going to place 2 double crochets into that chain space. In your beginning chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Then you are going to chain 1, and then you are going to reverse mosaic cluster all the way until you get to your middle point, and then I will show you how to do that part. Okay, so I am in the middle. I'm at the middle of my cardigan, the back portion, and I can't do any more mosaic granny clusters, and I know that's because I have nothing to put my triple crochet into. So when you get to those spots, you just do a regular granny cluster. and then chain 1, and then this spot right here, it's kind of like spread out, and you would think these are chain spaces, but it's not. It's just that midpoint join that we did. So you just skip over that because that is actually a cluster, and you go into the next chain space and you put a traditional cluster, granny cluster, and then now I'm back to where I can start working on doing my mosaic, reverse mosaic clusters. So it all depends on how many traditional granny clusters that you need to place, but it's just pretty much all the same technique, all the same everything. It just depends on how many you need to do. And then when we get to the end, I will show you how to end this row. Okay, so I'm at the end, and all I'm going to do is chain 1, and I am going to place a double crochet into the top of that chain 3 to end off this round. Now the round that we did before this one, I don't know if I mentioned, that one is going to be your alternative to round 1, and then this round right here that we just ended, there we go, it's going to be an alternative round to row 2 for the adult version of this cardigan, or if you do all of the front and back panels that I will show you. So to continue, all you do is turn your work and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and this will be in row 3. And actually for this row, if you want to color block like how you saw in the photos, you are going to fasten off at the end of row 2. You're going to fasten off here with your solid color, and then you are going to want to add in your multicolored yarn. And you are going to attach it into the top of the chain 3 where you just fastened off at. There we go. And then you're going to chain up 3, and then you are going to front post treble into that spot and then do a double crochet. So you're just finishing off making a mosaic granny. So from here on out, you can follow the original pattern, and you're going to repeat rows 3 and 4 until you get to your desired length. And then if you want to color block, you are going to just do your last 2 rows in whatever solid color that you've been using, and then you move on to the border. So I just wanted to show you guys this alternative way if you didn't do as many rows for your front and back panels, or your back panels, so that you know how to start and end it and where to place your granny clusters. Okay, so I just finished my lengthening. I actually did less rows than what I said I was going to do because I just measured it on my daughter, and once again I'm making a bigger size, so if I would have kept going it would have been too big on her. So I ended up doing 9 rows of my colored, and then 2 rows at the end for the pink, which is my main solid color. Now we are moving on to the border, and then we will be almost done with this. So this is where I left off at.